Good evening, everyone. We have 6 o'clock on November 11th. So this is Holly Leslie's boardroom, and I'd like to start off saying the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This special thanks to all the veterans that are celebrating their tremendous commitment to our country. Thank you. All right, all the meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Mr. Andre.
Here.
Mr. Gayheart. Here. Mayor Gordon. Here. Note that Mrs. Ingersoll is excused. Mrs. Costock.
Here.
Mrs. Reckles is also excused this evening. Mr. Scarrow.
Here.
Ms. Corpus. And Mr. Jaime Sarabia.
Here. Right. Now we've got community participation, and I know these two individuals are familiar with the rules of participation. So, Ellen Howling, please.
Good evening. Good evening. I just wanted to thank the school board for their efforts at getting the referendum passed. It's a great disappointment. Very sad day for Elkhorn schools. I've lived here for 27 years. I moved here for the excellent schools. It just breaks my heart. You've got a hard job ahead of you. I don't envy you. If I can be of service in any way, please let me know. But I just wanted to thank you for your efforts. That's it. I'm just very disappointed.
Thank you. Devin Gatton.
Good evening. Well, I was making sure I got my stopwatch here. I don't want you guys to go over time because of me. All right. So I wanted to stop in real quick just to, as Ellen said, thank you guys for everything you guys tried to do with the referendum. That being said, and I say this in all earnest, is it time now to finally get serious about this? I'm really kind of sick of coming and I was here for almost a full year and listening to the same 5 people constantly come in and tell you guys about how we need to have a referendum right now. We need to spend all this money. We need to make sure all this stuff is taken care of, and yet everybody in here completely ignored what the community said. Community spoke twice now on this issue. We spoke once in 2023. There was a difference of 15,030 votes where we voted no. We just spoke again and increased the margin by almost 400 votes, or excuse me, just over 400 votes at 1940. We had 6,000 people in the community come together and say, no, stop spending all of this money. Start looking at what we can do in the community, with the school district to reduce the budget. Not just sit here and just ask the school board for more money, not ask the community for more money. There was a lot of things that went wrong with this referendum. A lot of things. Number one, it was a stupid time to run. I don't know what in the world everybody here was thinking, coming in and saying on a November, when we're going to have one of the highest turnouts ever, let's go ahead and in a conservative community have a school referendum when they had just got done voting no. That blows my mind. I spoke against it. I spoke to a number of people on this school board and told you guys it was a dumb idea to do it in November, and I was ignored. In addition to that, Jason, I love you. You're an awesome administrator. You really are. But you're a terrible politician. It has nothing, it's not everybody, not everything's for everybody. Like I said, you're an awesome administrator, but that comes back to the school board in general. You school board members are the politicians. You school board members are the leaders here. All of you need to step up. and make sure that we are going through and actually doing the things that need to be done. Now, instead of, which I proposed, which was just not hiring 10 teachers and not hiring one administrator, now we're looking at firing, which is way, way worse. The Vote Yes campaign was really well won. Jennifer Lee was an amazing individual. I spoke with her a number of
20 seconds.
Jennifer Lee was an amazing individual. She did a fantastic time, but we had that. That was the excuse last time, which is we didn't have the Vote Yes campaign. We didn't have sessions to educate the public. We didn't have the business behind the referendum, and we had all of that this time, and the margins increased. I just hope this next time when we actually start looking at it, you guys come and speak with me. I can give you guys some ideas, some tips, some ways to be able to get through this, where we're actually getting a referendum passed with the whole community behind it, not just the select 5 people that show up to every one of these board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Career and College Academy presentation.
Thank you for having us. My name is Kelly Demrath, and I'm the principal of the Career and College Academy. One of our programs that I'm sure you've heard about, I have been here and I've talked about them before, is our Elkhorn Youth Build program. This is a grant-funded program by the Department of Labor. It is a 3-year grant cycle where we get to do 2 things, which is wonderful. We get to help our students learn construction skills, and we get funds to do that from the federal government. But then we also get to increase the affordable housing stock in our communities, which is amazing. We have participated in the build of 2 single-family homes in Whitewater. We are currently working on the middle school pavilion. I don't want to take anyone's thunder because I brought friends. As you can see, we all wear the same thing. And then we just broke ground on a house in Bloomfield. So I have brought our team of experts with me, and I would like to turn it over to my clock. Carl Muir, please come on up, Carl Muir. Aaron, Isaac, Abel, and so.
All right, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. I'm Mike Clark. I'm the new program manager for the Youth Build program as of July. I came over here from Lake Geneva, from Badger High School, so I'm finally on the right side of the highway toll rivalry, and I'm happy to be here. So first, just want to thank you, the board, for giving us the opportunity to present about what the Youth Build program does for our students to get them prepared for life after high school. So the first thing that we do obviously is work-based learning. So as Dr. Demmer said, we're currently in the middle of a outdoor classroom pavilion over at the middle school, and I'll have the students come up in a minute to talk about where we're at with that. But what they've also done is that they built a deck over at the Sophos building. Another thing that we do is we did set up a lot of job visits for them. I've seen the picture here is one of the job visits where we went and visited Wausau Homes. We visited other places like Integra Furniture. We've visited Thielen Construction, Stebnitz, Akron Housing Systems, and several others. It's just a great opportunity for kids to be able to see what careers are out there and what those careers look like in the trades industry. Another thing we do is financial education. We partner with UW Extension, and they come down and teach a class called Rent Smart, and they get students prepared to be physically prepared when they're out on their own, out in the real world. Then we have employability skills. I teach an employability class called Bring Your A Game, in which we teach the students a bunch of soft skills and what employers are looking for in new employees when they come to when they get into the workforce. Stickers. And then so we just implemented something new to Bring Your A Game. It's a list of 7 different A's, things like accountability, ambition, attendance. And so we just implemented something today where if they exemplify any one of these A's, they get a sticker A that they get to put on their hard hat. And it's like, if you, like Ohio State Buckeyes, you know, for football, they do that. I was a varsity baseball coach over at Badger before I came here. We did the same thing on the helmets. Anytime kids got an RBI, because we were trying to score runs, ran out of stickers after I did that, because it just, also we just started scoring runs like crazy. But yeah, so that's just something new that we started doing literally today. And then we also finalized their resumes today, but we'll tweak them a little bit as we continue to get some certifications, but we work on the resumes, and then the next couple of Mondays here, we're going to be working on their interviewing skills. And then at the end of their session, they'll in December, they're gonna do some mock interviews with actual employers, so we're getting them ready for that. Then the last thing we do is we get, that's right, you can say it. Go to the next one, yeah. Last thing we do is we get industry recognized certification. So here's a list of all the certifications that they get. So Department of Workforce Development Certified Pre-Apprenticeship, DPI Employability Skills Certificate. They get first aid, CPR and AED certified. They're currently working on the NCCER certification, and then they've already completed the OSHA 10 certification and the Snap-on Tape and Rule certification to get them ready for the workforce. And a lot of these kids, they don't have job experience or very little job experience. And by participating in Youth Build, they all of a sudden go from having their name, number, and address on a resume to having all these certifications along with job experience. So with that, I'm going to bring up Isaac Keeler and Eric Street. They're going to talk about where we're at with the pavilion. So Isaac's going to talk about where we're at right now with the pavilion. Eric's going to talk about what the next steps are for the pavilion. Isaac.
So where we are at currently is we have, where we are at currently is on September 25th, we have set forms for the concrete and have started replacing rebar for the foundation. On October 8th, we placed 50 yards of concrete for the foundation and the flooring. On October 9th, we have started framing walls for the building. And November 15th, we have planned to have completed the framing so we can put the roofing on.
That's already complete so far, and Eric's gonna let you guys know where we are heading with the project and what on future dates.
Yeah.
On November 18th, Stubnet's will begin framing the roof. On November 25th, Elkhorn Roofing will come in and they'll finish the roof. Then December 3rd, we will begin putting in the windows and doors, and I guess we're done for this group.
Yeah, and then the following, so their cohort ends in December, and the following cohort will come in and essentially finish the pavilion.
Could you share with us why you guys don't get to do the roofing?
Because we only have so much time for this cohort.
Yeah.
And
So another group gets experience as well.
But think about how high it is. Never talked about that.
Dr. Demreth won't allow any. Nobody is wearing a harness and hanging from our.
Youth Build has a rule, correct, on how
Yes,
high they
yes,
can work?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we have to bring in independent contractors in
Good job.
terms of roofing, electrical, plumbing, things of that nature. But then part of that contract is then they work with our students and talk about what they're doing and what the career pathways are. So, but yeah, there's no harnessing and hanging of teens from any trusses. We don't do that.
I'm gonna turn over to one of our construction managers or project managers, Mr. Bjorgi, to talk about what we have next after the pavilion.
All right, so actually, we've been working with Habitat for Humanity again. We've got another home that we're gonna be building in Bloomfield. It's actually gonna be a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's kind of a split tri-level type home. Because the family is a little bit on the larger side, we're able to actually then add almost another level to the house by still being able to have the crawl space kind of offsetting. So we really kind of get like 1.5 levels to a house. It fits that lot that's gonna be on really nicely. Our students had gone over there, we kind of looked at like the surveying a little bit and talking about the different elevations and issues that are gonna be going on, excavation wise. But they're gonna be starting with the concrete, I think they're shooting for Thanksgiving, like right after Thanksgiving, they're gonna start the concrete work, over at that house. So kind of with how much we have going on right now, we're gonna be working on the pavilion, getting it all kind of buttoned up and everything. And then when we have days where we can't be out at the site for habitat for things like cranes and stuff were coming in for their liability purposes, then we'd be coming back towards our pavilion to keep working on that. So we have just constant work going on with these projects with our students. Yeah.
And before we sunset on the pavilion, we want to thank Sugar Creek
Absolutely.
Church for funding this project through a donation to them. They were the ones who approached us with this project, and we're very thankful for that partnership.
So if you guys ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to, we will answer any questions and talk some more youth over to you.
You said you teach soft skills. What would be examples of soft skills?
So like attendance, so the A's are attendance, accountability, ambition. So just teaching those types of things, attitude to.
Acceptance.
And it's kind of funny when we go to job visits, we ask employers like, what are some things that you look for in future employees to work at your business, and they literally say all this exact same things that we teach in the fashion show, and then we'll turn and look at the guy like, we told you this. We're not just saying this just to say this, but yeah, those soft skills are what we're preaching.
Questions?
How's for the students, how's it been working on these projects?
Able to get talks, I'll let you.
Yeah. Come on, babe, tell everybody what you worked on, what you like, what you did.
For me, it's been a wonderful experience being able to learn many different types of tools that I can use or how to use them. But from what I can say about my friends that are in the program, they're enjoying it as much as I am as well. I enjoy it a lot. Construction is one of the things I really want to do when I'm older. So doing this program has really helped me kind of grasp the understanding of it and how to use other different variety of tools.
So just to kind of give a quick example, Abel is working on the senior skills graduation program, and he was falling behind in math a little bit. So I talked to Abel, I was like, Abel, what's going on? He's like, well, I'm struggling with fractions. And I stopped and I looked and I said, Abel, you use fractions every day on your tape measure. What are you talking about this? So then we sat down and looked at it, and he's like, oh yeah, we know all this. Like, it was just, as he looked at it differently, like, he was able to then connect it to another class that he was doing and pass those classes and get through his math portion of that project. When we started this, Eric would have come up here and talk to anybody. So I'm super proud that he came up here and did that. That's something that he wouldn't have done. Isaac's conducted himself very well throughout this whole process and has really taken on a leadership role, just being a more spoken voice. So these kids are all learning things. They probably don't even realize what we see them growing and doing, but it's fantastic. Like I said, we talk about these 7 A's and we go out to employers and they, say the same things in different words type thing, and it's cool to relate back to our kids. And they're coming back and telling us these things too, like I think the other day somebody said, I can't believe how many employers just worry about attendance. Being there on time for work, like, it's like, yeah, like it's a problem. That's one of our A's, so. Yeah, it's been cool to see these guys, and I don't know if Abel would have came probably when we started this program to talk to everybody, and this is his like 3rd speech I think he's given. How
He used to be at Badger with me, and I knew him from Badger, so he's grown so much from his time there, and his hands-on experience has really helped him grow.
And we've had this for other students, but Abel specifically, we've talked to places who said they would hire him tomorrow.
Nice.
And we told him that, and he was kind of like, what? Like, he was kind of taken aback that he's like, I feel like I did anything special, but like just the way that he was conducting himself and his peers are conducting themselves, it's already making great impressions, and they're getting people who want to hire them before they're even done with the program.
Fantastic. Good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to esports overnight travel request. Right.
Go, Mike.
Thank you.
Go, Mike.
There you go.
All right.
Excellent. So we made it short and sweet, didn't make it all fancy. We're gonna put little Mario players on there or whatever. The highlights here are really quite simple. So here's the deal. The Smash Brother community has gotten bigger and bigger. So there's two parts to the Smash community. The Smash community that we've been building is the teamwork, the team camaraderie, building an esports team. Competitive team similar to football or baseball. The only difference is they're sitting on a switch and they're competing against other teams. But there's always that individual component. Who's the best and that kind of thing. So that's also grown alongside it. Well, that's gotten quite big. And so the last couple of times that we've gone, we've been there till 8, 9 o'clock at night. That one day that we've asked. So I get back at 9, 10 o'clock at night here to drop off the kids. So Mike Dolly is the president of the WAHSEA. He happens to be also our career tech CTE coordinator. And after talking to many people, they said, it's just so much easier and cost effective if we just break this into 2 nights. So what happens is over the course of the season, we have an 8-week season. And during that week on Mondays and Tuesdays, the kids will actually compete individually with other kids. So there was 165 participants signed up for the individuals. When it was all done the week before, Kellen Paprocki ended 14th in the state. Joey Mike ended 22nd. Yes, forgive me, it's been a long day already. And then finally, Josh Lauderdale ended 51st. So all of them qualified to go to Friday's meet to compete for who's the best. On top of that, our team went 7-1. We lost 1 game to Union Grove. We're still kicking ourselves, but we had 3 of our varsity had doctor's appointments that night. And so we wound up running our JV squad and we lost by 1. We lost 10-9. So our JV almost beat their varsity that night. Needless to say, long story short, we are the #1 seed going in Saturday this weekend. We have Waterford on the docket first and then probably Fox Valley second. This is huge because, to be honest with you, we lost 4 or 5 students last year were seniors. They went to state 4 times. We took second 3. We took state once. And we thought this was going to be a rebuilding year. And here we are, #1, seed 2. So we're asking permission to take these boys up. And then the other 3 from our team said, can we go and cheer them on? Well, we need 2 drivers anyway. And there's only 2 of us. And Mike has to go up anyway for Monday. So we said, why not? So what we're asking permission is to let them stay overnight, cheer on their teammates. Hopefully one of them takes the big trophy home and then win the big trophy on Saturday. And that's what we'd like to do with your permission. And this is just the details here.
So when you say Fox Valley, is that the Fox Valley Tech?
Fox Valley Lutheran.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's Nathan Nolte's team. You know the Nolte's, they live in town, his parents. So there's actually a weird connection there with us in Fox Valley. But yes, we think we're better than them, so. I gotta be careful when I say that because I think we were the better team Saturday too.
Appreciate the simplicity of your slides.
But the bottom line is Mike Dolly will have to stay, but Mr. Mike, Joey's dad, will be driving the other boys home that Saturday. Mike has to stay and he's gonna move. When he's done, he's heading west because he's going to work with the DECA team on their competitions in Kalahari. So it's a busy weekend for all of us in the VCE department.
Smash Bros is the game that everybody goes crazy for during homecoming week.
Yes.
We keep hearing stories about how
Yes.
awesome that was.
Yeah, if you get a chance
I
to
gotta
watch
check that
them,
out.
it's crazy. By the way, we do stream this live. So Saturday morning, if you're interested, we do actually do a live stream. Our boys are really good. And Kellen, who won the homecoming, is the one that was actually 14th on that list. And he's actually better than that. So
They do have a Twitch account which generates some massive revenues. I think it's like over $100. After a couple of years, but it's.
Well, and we have our own Elkhorn one that we do too. We try to feed all the games, so. Another one of those things that we try to encourage the kids, Mike Dolly has a scholarship for kids. To do the games for them. We haven't gotten any takers, but we've been working hard with the broadcasting club to come up with layovers. So when the feed plays, you can see the layout, which has got the team scores and all that kind of stuff. So we have a couple of our boys are working on that in the digital innovations classes. And so it's nice how we can tie a lot of this to multiple different classes in the school as well. The other thing that I want to also mention is that while they're not going with us this year, we added 3 special ed kids to our team. And they all competed at least once in the varsity level. Next year, they will be our varsity. And we have 4 more that we just added that we found out tonight for Mario Kart, which starts the next season. So we are trying to get as many kids involved with something in the school.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Nintendo 64 is coming back, by the way.
I heard there was
saw that.
that, and they're gonna come out with a Switch 2 also. But the 64 is gonna be hard to not dump some money on, yes. So any questions for me?
Total number of kids, how many adults?
There will be 5 kids. We might bring the 6th, the alternate, but there will be 2 adults, 2 vehicles. So it'll be a max of 3 kids per vehicle.
And you said one person is traveling from there to somewhere else?
So
What happens to
Joey
those
Mike's
kids?
dad, Mr. Mike, works at Tibbetts.
Right.
He's coming up.
But he's
after
not one of,
school.
he's not one of the 2 drivers.
Correct. It'll be me and
Got
Mr. Dolly up,
Okay,
but me and Mr. Mike back.
okay.
So we will still have 2 adults both ways. It's in Wausau, so it's a haul.
It is.
Other questions? Otherwise, we need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the esports overnight travel request as presented.
A second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks,
Thank
good
you.
luck, yeah.
Any thoughts on Koopa and the ghost bike?
Say that.
Any thoughts on Koopa and the ghost bike or?
For Mario Kart, wow, I'll have more details. I'd like to say we'd come back with a state trophy, the #1. And we would present, and then maybe we can give you a preview of what we're gonna be doing. We maybe bring some of the kids in here to talk to them. Lovely, thank you, bet.
Can't see the screen when they play it, but it's just a blur.
All right, middle school, and high school improvement plan presentation.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bosch. I'm Sixth Health Director of Instruction. I'm here tonight with Mr. McBurney and Mr. Keel to represent the middle school and the high school respectively. Tonight, we're going to talk about our SIP plans so that you have more awareness of what we're working on in each one of the buildings. So our SIP plans really kind of
For those not knowing what SIP stands for.
school improvement plans. Our SIP plans really kind of start off in August in both buildings. And they start with a deep dive into the data that I just shared with you, along with student survey data and along with teacher survey data. And we get together with our school improvement team, or I'm sorry, our school leadership team to create the school improvement goals. We dig into the data, we look for our celebrations, we look for our areas of growth, and then we set goals on those areas of growth and come up with action steps for what we're going to do to improve those areas that we identify. So, turn it over to Mr. McBurney.
Please. Thank you. Starting with celebrations. So as we were reviewing the data, we came up with some of these items. First being that 95% of our students reported having a trusted adult at school, which was a big increase and something that we had focused on over the last couple of years. As well, 74% of our students were proficient or higher on the social studies 4 exam, which was just significant growth and achievement and really speaks to the work, especially in the areas of reading and writing and analyzing graphs and charts that our social studies department has done the last couple of years. As well, our co-curricular participation was at 88% of students being involved in one thing after school, which we know ties directly to increased attendance, grades, behavior, things like that. And there were some fairly significant changes to the board exam this year. So we were, as we were preparing for that, we were really waiting to see how that kind of shook out, and we outgrew the state in terms of our reading and math performance and kind of where the last test of the steps. So that was good to see, and that our action steps took hold.
And we were revalidated as an AVID demonstration school, which of the AVID schools, 1% of AVID schools are demonstration schools. So that means that we have other people coming to look to us to how we're implementing our college readiness and career readiness system in the middle school and in the high school. So revalidated for another 3 years.
All right, so as I mentioned, there was some significant changes to the forward exam, which is our state test at the middle school level, in math and reading for all grade levels, and then science and social studies as well for the 8th grade level. We got news or we knew the changes were coming, we didn't really know what they were, honestly, until basically New Year's Day last year. So with a couple months before the test, so we had taken some steps there to do what we can to adjust to those changes going through the end of last year, and we're happy to see our results. Now, some of that did include some adjustments to cut scores, but still, as I said, we outgrew the state kind of in our growth there in both English and then as well in math. So that was something that's post-COVID has been something we've really been growing towards, and really finally got to see that bump. So everybody at the middle school was really happy with that. And leads us into our focus for the upcoming year. So our rigor goal is centered around the achievements in reading. So our goal is to get our achievement levels, obviously, up into that 10% on the forward exam, and you're kind of seeing a journey of numbers and incremental growth there throughout the course of the years that we're shooting towards. We measure that with our previously map testing, now our iReady system, in terms of those benchmarks 3 times a year, conversations with students and teachers, and how to break that data down and increase that achievement overall. Our responsiveness goal is related to the individual growth of students for both math and reading. We measure that as well via iReady, because that forward exam is only once a year. We'll take it in usually April, and we get results sometime by August. So that's really not much of a conversation piece. So we use the iReady, previously map system, to have those conversations with kids, staff, getting everyone where they need to be. And then our relevance goal had previously been working towards that all students having that one trusted adult at school. And we had kind of just lingered in that 80 to 85% range for a little bit. And then through some different survey tools, a little bit different action planning last year, our goal for the end of last year was honestly to get it up to 85%, because we had kind of seen it as a number that was just hard to push and fluctuate. And we got it up to the 94.7% students by the end of the year, which was good to see. So we made an adjustment with that goal, where we're looking to get 90% of our students to meet grade level expectations in all of their expectation metrics, which is something that we'll talk about in a little bit more detail here in a second.
All right, so the action steps that the team came up with for that first goal around reading really kind of is like 6-fold long, as you can see here. Maybe not as simplistic as Jerry's slides, but Anyway, so, those action steps. As Mr. McBurney said, the forward test has changed like 3 times in the last 3 years. And every time it changes, they don't really tell us exactly how it's going to change until it's almost like too late. Like he said, last year, we didn't get the rubric for how the kids were gonna be grading on the writing portion of the test until like New Year's Day. It was ridiculous, which meant we had like 3 months to prepare when you should be preparing the entire year for building those skills. Anyway, exciting news this year, finally for the first time from the state, we were able to get an item analysis of the forward test, which broke down what are those specific skills that they are going to be measuring, what are those essential skills, because you know, you have all those standards, what are most important, right? And then also, what's the rigor level? How difficult are those questions going to be? And then what are the specific item types that kids are going to be asked? Are they multiple choice questions? Are they short answer questions? Are they technology enhanced questions? How are they going to be tested? So what we were able to do this summer when we were working with our core teams is we were able to dig into that item analysis, and we were really able to figure out what's most essential on that test and align our learning targets to those essentials. So we know what to spend more time on and what to spend less time on in the classroom. Additionally, we were able to start working on building our assessments to give kids more practice with how they're going to be assessed on that forward test. So what rigor levels and what item types that they would be seeing on that test, and giving them more practice on the test that they're taking in class in their regular classes, if that makes sense. Some of the other things that we're going to be working on or continue working on is just making sure that we're hitting kids in their zone of proximal development, and we're differentiating the skill areas that they're working on through flexible grouping, and making sure that there's appropriate scaffolds and supports for students so that we can kind of increase those skills at their levels. In addition, also for helping to build those reading skills, as you know, we don't have a reading block at the middle school. We have the same amount of time in an ELA class as you do in a science class, as you do in a social studies, as you do in math. So that means that our social studies teachers, our science teachers, our allied arts teachers, they really need to help carry that load of teaching those comprehension skills and giving kids practice with those comprehension skills. So we need to provide them with professional development to be able to do that. So continuing giving them strategies that they can use with students to help build those comprehension skills, those pre, during, and post reading strategies, which is very helpful from our AVID training, because AVID allows us to be able to learn different strategies to be able to teach those comprehension skills to students. In addition, focusing on when we are giving kids reading, that we're building those comprehension skills, we also want to ask them the questions specifically that they need to build those skills. So that's what we mean by key ideas and details. Continued PD specifically for our other content areas, not just ELA and allied arts. And then we also want to make sure that during win time, we're targeting groups. We're specifically targeting students who have scored on iReady just below that proficiency level. For forward testing, we're giving them a continued dose, like a double dose, basically, of building their skills to help get them proficient.
WIN.
Oh, sorry, what I need. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So our responsiveness goal is, again, meeting individual students' growth goal, which is accomplished by either meeting with small groups of kids or individual kids, and doing that within the classroom, and then doing that in other times, whether it's pulling kids out of study hall or during wing time, or what I need time or flexible period each day. So we've undergone some professional development with staff around setting individual goals and conferring with those individual students, and how to build that into what you already do in the classroom to make those growth goals more targeted and relevant to students. As Ms. Foch talked about, we have different targeted groups set up to work with kids that are on grade level versus one grade level below, several grade levels below. again, we've got some new systems in place for working with our students with IEPs and who are below the 20th percentile to make sure that they're receiving all the supports both in and outside of the classroom that they need to be successful in this year's grade level content and backfilling some of those skills that they may have missed in the past or need a little bit more work on as well. As Ms. Bosch talked about, we've got the equal time between all of our classes, so we know that it's, even though it's, you know, science, English, math, social studies are all the same length period, so we need to be able to differentiate within that classroom. We've got kids with all different skill levels in one room, so how do we approach that grade level content in a way that makes sense to all the kids and is meeting them in their zone of proximal development. And then one of the other things that we have weekly is what we call a co-planned and co-served meeting, which involves, like, for example, our two math teachers sitting down with a special education teacher, and they're really taking a deep dive into what are those groups of students going to look like, who needs what supports, again, trying to get everyone where they're at and moving them closer to where they need to be. And our final goal again was the relevance goal. So this replaced our trusted adult goal, and we have 3 what we call expectations at the middle school: be respectful, be responsible, and be productive. Part of the school leadership's team work was taking our old expectations and then reworking them a little bit to really kind of make those behaviors more targeted and specific. So as you meet with kids and confer with them and are giving them feedback, it makes more sense than, you know, it's just respectful, which is a pretty broad spectrum. So our school leadership team went through the work of kind of developing the rubric to get that out to families and staff. And then the next step was our students received grades on this, not towards the GPA or anything like that, but it's on their report card in each class. Teachers getting together talking about, you know, what exactly does getting a 1 mean versus a 2 versus a 3, which is the scoring system, which was important for again, those conversations that teachers are going to have with kids. So they're just all on the same page and everyone's hearing the same message. And again, some school-wide lessons during winter time that went into that, as well as discussions in each classroom, what the expectations are and what this means in a given classroom as kids are kind of learning that code switching and switching from people to people that we all have to do in work and kind of navigating through that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the areas that we provided some PD on, which is those individual conversations around behaviors for teachers to have with kids, and all tried to tie these under that umbrella of just kind of being future ready and behaviors that we want to develop in kids now, so that as they're getting out into more of those career-based experiences in high school and then later in life, that they're developing those workplace behaviors that have them stand out from other students.
Is there a reason why they changed the test 3 times in 3 years?
They changed, yeah. They changed the standards first. Then they decided that they didn't like how the writing portion of the test looked, so they changed that. Then they didn't like the listening and the speaking part of the test, so they changed that and eliminated that. So they just keep trying to align it better to the standards is what they're saying.
And they don't test the test?
No, they don't test the test before we get
No,
evaluated
we
on
test
the
it for
test.
them.
We test it
Yeah.
for them.
Obviously.
And then here's another lovely one. I know it's embargoed until later this week, but our middle school has done outstanding work and increased our proficiency and advanced level for students 3 years in a row in both math and the reading portion of the forward exam. So that's 3 years in a row, more proficient and advanced students year after year. Yeah, what do you think would happen to the school report card in that scenario? You would expect it to go up 3 years in a row, right? Instead, it's gone down 3 years in a row. Makes no sense. So even this year, they had a big jump in proficiency advanced, and it still dipped down a little bit more. So it's bizarre. That's why we do focus on redefining ready and these other metrics and we don't put a whole lot in on that school-based report card. Right? And we've seen that in other schools where Tibbetts a few years ago, I believe, was the third highest achieving elementary school in the state. They went up in their achievement the following year even higher in their school report card. It's just baffling sometimes, yeah. Fuzzy math, but whatever.
Does that correlate with the reading readiness that you gave us? I mean, anything that you spoke of, because I'm looking at something with
Yes,
the GPA thing right off the bat.
it doesn't mean we're not working on some of those things, but this is what the school leadership team determined and what they tell you, like, as far as goals that you can actually like focus on. You want to pick anywhere between 2 to 3 goals. So they just said there's there's more than 2 or 3 things that we maybe need to work on, but those were the 3 that they felt were the most important, if that makes sense. Good question.
I just thought it was odd that something happens from 6th grade to 8th grade where like the 3.0 GPA is going down.
That was
Consistently over the last several years.
That was on the list.
So, yeah, I mean, so we're doing all this fantastic testing and I get it, that the state's requiring this, but
Well, the rigor levels will help with that because
Yeah.
if we're working on the rigor levels in all the grades, then we should be able to see that increase in all
it
grade
should be
levels.
improving there as well.
Yep. Good question.
Because same, is, and I'm just double checking numbers here.
And it does kind of
Yeah.
sound like we're trying to like teach to the test,
Yeah.
but in reality, if you're going to be asking kids to do that, you definitely want to prepare them for what they're being expected to do. So I wouldn't say it's the only thing we're focusing on, but I don't want to throw them into a test and be like, here you go.
Here, by the way, I mean, and I can understand not teaching to the test from the standpoint of A to B, A to A. But from the aspect of how to take a test, and this is what a
Yes.
test is about, and these are the examples of the types of things that you're going to be doing or seeing or experiencing.
Yep.
And that's fine.
Absolutely.
Content should remain consistent and or grow as you cross grade those, so, yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, how do the expectations translate to the high school? Yeah, be respectful, be responsible, be productive.
And the high school has the employability skills,
Okay.
which are kind of the same. You could, they're
Create some
comparable,
parallels.
but we want to have the different language at the different levels. Sure. Because they're different ages, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So, same thing happens at the high school, that happens at the middle school in August. We get our school leadership team together. We dig into all the data. And our school leadership team, I forgot to say this for the middle school, but yeah, our school leadership team at the high school consists of our department leaders. It consists of our student services team, our AVID teacher, who am I missing? And our school interventionists. So it's almost like 30 people. Almost very similar to that at the high school, the makeup is, except they don't have department leaders, they have team leaders. So I'll let Mr. Keel start.
Alright, so like Ryan had talked about, it's probably one of the coolest meetings we have when we do this in August. People come in and, I mean, we get to work and dig into what happened last year and really come up with what are our focuses for the following year. And we try to keep things in line with what we're already doing. We try to keep consistent and not bounce around from one thing to another. We try to make sure that we're just keep moving in a positive direction. Things that we thought, we're very happy with. 91.6% of students feel like their teachers care about them as a person. Obviously, we want that to be 100%. If you can get 91.6% of high schoolers to agree on anything. You know, and we do spend a lot of time with our teachers talking about building those relationships with kids. Learning doesn't happen unless that relationship starts first, and taking the relationships from care where the kids feel they're cared about, and then moving them to press where they feel like, all right, I can get some more out of you, and stretching the kids. But that's a goal every year. I think it's been a goal every year that I've been here. Industry-based certifications. Always looking to pull more certifications if we can, you know, 438 of them. Co-curricular participation, I get glasses actually. Co-curricular participation, again, we'd love it if it was 100%. 83% is very high for a high school. We all know that kids who do better, kids who are involved do better. So we really try to pull more kids in. Kids want clubs, we try to figure out a way to do a club. I have a kid meeting with me tomorrow about Pokemon club. We can get some kids to want to do it. We'll figure out a way to make it happen. Work-based learning experiences, 71 of those last year. Again, that's a number that we want to go up. It's sometimes hard to piece a definition together about the DPI and what they consider a work-based learning experience compared to what we do, but we keep moving in that direction because we feel it's a positive road to go on for the kids. 25% of our students got a 24 to 27 on the ACT. We're very happy with that. All right, so our school-wide goals, what we came up with as we were looking at this. One of the things, and this is really a modification of a goal that we had before, we used to have a goal with our special education students and trying to raise their ACT up. But when we really started looking at the data, it's not just special education students that are falling below that 16, and 16 is that number that will get you into Gateway. It's kind of that base number. If you get the 16 or above, sometimes you don't have to do the placement test when you go into a tech school. So, and there's also something called the Gateway Promise, where if you qualify, you could qualify for free education through Gateway if you meet other factors. But that 16 is the minimum of where we want our kids to go. We're looking to go to 85% of kids hitting a 16 or higher for this year. Relationships, 80% of students have no grades lower than a C-. From the 23-24 Tri-3, students, 182 out of 928 students had either a D or an F. You know, that's pretty good for a high school, but we don't want D's and F's, period. So by the end of each trimester, 90% of students will have no grades lower than a C-. And the reason that's under relationships is because we do believe if you build that relationship with the kid that maybe is reluctant to do the work in your class, or, you know, may not like your class, but you build that relationship, you can get a lot out of those kids. And that's really the goal to moving that. Responsiveness. When we look at the data and we compare our Latino students to the rest of the population, the Latino students are lagging a bit in having a GPA of a 2.8 or higher, which Redefining Ready says has that as the bar at 2.8 GPA or greater. So I believe we're at 68% overall and 52% with our Latino students. So that's the goal, is to raise that up to 58. That's a stretch goal, because as kids get into school and they start to build their cumulative GPA, it becomes very hard to move that as they get more and more credits. So we really need to focus in on our freshmen and sophomores and make sure that they're staying above that level so they don't have to make up.
All right, so when the team started planning what the action steps were going to be, they said there's a bunch of things that we're doing that are really great that we need to keep doing, because that's going to help those goals that we're working on. So one of those is, and I'm gonna throw a little acronym at you again, is GRS, and it stands for Guaranteed Recovery System. What we expect our teachers to do at half an hour per week is we expect them to go back and reteach. And you can't go back and reteach on everything because there's just too much stuff, but you have to be very, very selective in what you go back and reteach on that kids aren't getting. And we ask them to base that off of the essential skills. the things that are most important to keep kids on grade level. We're gonna go back and we're gonna reteach on, and if kids already have it and they don't need to be retaught, then we're gonna stretch them in that particular skill. So we're asking them to do that at least a half an hour per week. We're asking them to continue to focus on those high-performing student relationships and providing that care about students as individuals and as students themselves. And then that press, making sure that we have high expectations for all kids. We expect Wicker in every lesson, just like we do at the middle school. That's making sure that we have writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, or reading in every lesson, that we're building those skills. And then also that we're approaching our lessons from a UDL standpoint, so that we are providing flexible ways, universal design for learning. That we're providing flexible pathways for students to learn information and to show how to learn.
That's the goal number one, had to do with the ACT. Some different things that we came together as our leadership team, and then we actually came back to our department leaders and wanted to fine tune this a little more for what do we need to do. Part of it is just improve the messaging of the ACT for staff and students. There's been a lot of mixed messaging with the ACT over the last, well, since COVID. A lot of schools quit using it.
Colleges,
Made it optional that you didn't have to submit your ACT score, so there was talk that ACT was gonna kind of go by the wayside, but from what I'm hearing from colleges now is that it will be used again, because I think they need to have that consistent measure, because they can't, GPA, rank, all these other things are so different depending on what school they went to. What the kid took in school, there's so many different factors when they're looking at kids and trying to be selective for admissions. I think the ACT is that one standard measure that they can use. So I think that the messaging from staff to students, from us to staff when we're talking about it, is that we really need to bring a level of importance to that score, and being very careful that it's a number. It's one number, it's one measurement. But it is one that we are measured by, and kids will be measured by. ACT incentives, something I've always kind of balked at, and I don't know. But I guess they talked me into talking to the juniors about some ACT incentives for next year. Continuing ABD is aligned by design. That's work that we did at the high school probably 10 years ago. It's based on the Hersey model, and basically looking at different skill bands on the ACT. ACT is a reading test. It's all about skills. So you can use different content, any different content to measure those skills. You can take an ACT science test. You don't have to know a lot of science to do very well on it. If you can read the charts, read the graphs, interpret the data, pick out bias, author's intent, all different kinds of things that those skills are skills that are very important for us as problem solvers and adults. So to continue to do that work with ABD.
We have it embedded into our curriculum, so kids get practice with it and in the content courses.
In the core classes.
Yeah.
Continue ACT prep and study hall. Increase the number of students. What we've done in the past is we look at kids that have below a 17, and for the 8 weeks going up to the ACT, we've pulled those kids in for these little crash courses, like ways that you can boost your score, understanding how to take the test. The timing factor. Our kids don't take a lot of time tests, and that time factor can crush some kids on those scores, and just the stamina that it takes to get through a test. So we are looking at giving some of that stuff to all kids, and really honing in on our practice with the kids that are below. And then giving kids practice in their ZPD, zone of proximal development. Apologize for the acronyms. Giving kids practice at their own level. It doesn't pay to give a kid a question that's at the 25 to 27 level on an ACT if they're working at the 16 level. We need to meet them where they're at and moving forward. Goal 2 with D's and F's. Improve study hall communication and protocols, meaning teacher to teacher, teacher to kid. If I have a group of kids in a study hall, I see the students got a lot of missing work, pulling them up, spending the time, organizing, helping them organize their time, get a game plan for making the work up. Getting kids involved in co-curriculars, using the parent contact, really focusing on our guaranteed recovery system with classes. I mean, good teaching. Teachers are doing that all the time. Doesn't always have to be a half-hour chunk, but you can do it in 10-minute blocks when you need to. But being intentional about it. Teachers conferring with students, that individual goal setting. Pulling them up during class when they're working one-on-one, here's your grade, here's what you do, good, go. You know, just making those, building those relationships. Reviewing grades at all Cold Plan Serve meetings. Cold Plan Serve, Ryan talked about it, special education specialists like EL, sometimes speech and language. Anybody who would be involved in kids in those classes meet together once a week in our core classes, freshman and sophomore core level classes, and really plan the week and make sure that the lessons are accessible for all kids. But also talking about grades at those meetings, so if we do see kids that are falling behind, we can make a plan at that point. Tight on the phone policy, keeping those things put away during class time. And then incentives again for no missing work. They're trying to talk me into that one. We'll see.
All right, and for our last goal, what the team came up with was, we really want to spend some time, figuring out, there's, 114 out of our 154 Hispanic Latino students that are involved in a co-curricular activity, and we want to find out the students that aren't involved in something, get them involved in something, or figure out why they're not involved in something, knowing that that's one of those things that helps to, boost students' GPAs up. Also, we want to get very granular about who those students are that are below that 2.8 GPA, and make sure that the teachers who have those students are aware of that so they can provide those extra supports like Mr. Keel was talking about. We also want to take some time with those students to specifically teach them study skills and strategies that they can use to help them do better in their classes as well. Likewise, intentionally teaching vocabulary in all classes will just help out, in particular this group of students, but all groups of all students. We also want to make sure that we're addressing any derogatory comments at any point in time when they happen immediately, to make sure that that's not a reason why students are not performing well in class. And then we also want to work on making sure that we have a proactive EL transition from the middle school to the high school, looking at that data of our EL students specifically, and maybe intentionally placing students first trimester in an academic study hall or in a structured study hall so they can get additional supports if needed. All right, that's it. What questions do you have?
Curious about what the incentives are.
I'm guessing the ACT incentive will have something to do with food.
Party or something.
I was gonna ask you Wednesday, but if it's food, then I'm okay with it.
So I noticed on the redefining ready data, the high school had a big jump from last year on the percentage of students that scored 24 or above, which combining that with the 28 plus was 34% this year, as compared to 21% the year before and 22% the year before. First of all, that's huge celebration. That's a very big jump they had in 1 year, and congrats on that. Any thoughts or yeah?
Well, I think anytime you're comparing ACT from year to year, you're not comparing apples to apples, so it's a different cohort of kids, so there is always that. But we do focus on trying to stretch kids and meet them where they're at and stretch them. If a kid comes into 16, we can do a 19, awesome. You know, so I think having that growth mindset where we're really just trying to stretch the kids and getting the most out of them. And having them believe that they can get the most out of themselves is, I guess, where the power is.
In addition, I think that just building in those skills that they're going to be assessed on the ACT into their core classes, they get constant practice with it. And they don't even really know that it's happening.
We try not to call it ACT study.
Sometimes that does
You know,
happen.
But the thing that I think gets a lot of kids with the ACT is it's a time test. And I think a lot of kids get overwhelmed by clock ticking.
Especially the reading test.
Reading's brutal.
It is.
And science is always the last one and they're done.
Mhm.
Their brains are fried.
Any other questions for the high school? Students, any thought or input?
What's your incentive there?
I want some pieces.
Yeah, Yeah, that was pretty much number one on most people's list of them.
Yes.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
you're gonna be. Gotta be back up here.
Yeah, sorry, just keep the. Yeah.
I'll let him touch this one.
New course proposals, high school? No, I appreciate you allowing me to do all this at once. I did, you go back.
Thanks for waiting though, Mr. Eisenbach. All right, so our first new course proposal at the high school is we are shifting from our CSE class into a CS robotics, computer science robotics course. Really what Mr. Eiserloff has noticed, and I'm gonna let him talk here in a few seconds, is that our numbers in the CSE class have really started to dwindle over time, especially because of the coding that kids already are getting in elementary and at the middle school level. And we need something that really can kind of bridge the gap between the middle school and the high school and garner some interest in students and get them started off in computer science.
So basically, it's exactly what Sarah had said. The original CSE program was supposed to be designed for the kids that were open enrolled to our district. We had 100% of our middle school students taking CS with Ms. Struy. And that was great, but then we noticed there was a gap between the kids that were open enrolled and the kids that were coming in from Ms. Struy. So we created this semester class just as a catch-up class for anybody that needed special needs or open enrolls, etc.
Or new move-ins or.
Right, any of those kind of things. What we've noticed though is those numbers have become just non-existent and nobody's taking these classes. What we're seeing is seniors and juniors taking this class. And they've already taken 2 or 3 of my computer science classes. So this is like going through Calc 1, 2, and then taking pre-algebra. That's the equivalent. And so you nix that before you know it, you don't have a class. And so that's one of the issues. The other thing was, we've been talking this year about bringing up certifications and getting certifications more in the field. I do a combination of classes. I teach CS and I teach engineering. And one of the things that I've been asked multiple times by Gateway and by some of the other industries around here, do you teach ladder logic programming, which is basically robotics? And while I am well versed, that's what my first job was before I became a teacher. We don't have any of that here. This would be allowing us to go ahead and allow those kids to continue from Mr. Hudson's classes and now give them some place to go here. So now they can actually transition into either computer science, focus more on that, or focus more on the modernization of engineering, if you will. So my goal here is, since I am pretty well versed in robotics, is to continue that stuff using the newer languages, Python, and JavaScript, and those things. We already have most of the materials. We have the stuff in POE. We have the stuff from Project Lead the Way. We have the VEX kits. We have the computers from the computer science class. And the software that's needed for this is free because we are a PLTW district. So there's no real heavy cost other than maybe a couple of startup motors at the back end if there's a large group. Because right now I can use a lot of what Mr. Malvitz has. And so there wouldn't be much of a transition there. But the nice thing is that this would lead us into different options for pathways, again, for certification purposes. That would be a really nice thing to do.
Or maybe a new club that could be.
Yes, we could also do a robotics club, which would be another way, again.
Say it.
Because
BattleBots.
I didn't realize there was a connection. Okay, I brought that up weirdly enough in our discussions. We have talked about it. We've had, again, weirdly enough, Fox Valley, Nathan Nolte brought a team down here a couple of years ago to showcase the first robotics group. We did that at Westside Elementary on a weekend. And it's hugely popular. It's not the big robots that cost thousands of dollars. It's the smaller ones. But usually people are using the kits that we already currently have in our school districts. And so that is something that we've talked about. But again, the reason why I balked at it was because we had nothing in the high school. There was nothing to continue that process on. And at the time, it just didn't make sense to go ahead and start something new when we had large classes, and I can only teach so many classes before I run out of space. Now my numbers are dwindling. This might be a good opportunity to go ahead and maybe introduce some of those things that we've been missing.
Questions, do you have?
I like it.
Just a question about the process now of getting a new class approved. I mean, what steps does Jerry have to go through to get here?
Well, he came and talked to Dan and I in a meeting, and then he filled out a form.
Okay,
And then he went to the curriculum, well, I did, because he had to be in class.
but it went to the curriculum.
Then we went to the curriculum council and presented at the curriculum council, and then it comes here.
Okay,
And it's basically replacing one. It's not a new class. We're just changing that curriculum, moving it to another one. And then
And that was an action item too, right? From the curriculum council, the council voted to bring it to the board.
Yeah.
We went a little bit more in depth on it. And
yeah, I
then
just
voted.
wondered if it had gone through the council.
Want me to click on the next one? Or any other questions on the computer science robotics?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Unless you want to jump into the English.
Sure, why not? I can do this. What language would you like it in?
That's true.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ezra.
All right, so our second course proposal for the high school is English Composition 1. This will be a course that will be added to the English 12 options for next year. Right now, we have English 12 and we have AP Lit for students to pick from in English 12. This would give an opportunity for students to take a transcripted course that would count for their first year of English in a 2-year or a 4-year institution. So the transcripted credit that they would be able to earn. Right now, we have one class of AP Lit. This would be an opportunity, otherwise everybody else takes English 12. This would be an opportunity for kids to be able to get that transcripted credit, more kids to get that.
It's on the list of universal transfer credits, which means any institution in the state of Wisconsin
We'll take it.
takes it. There's a free credit English.
And weren't you saying at the curriculum council that there was almost a call for this particular class?
Yes, there was. Because of the opportunity to be able to get it to count in a 2-year or 4-year institution.
It's the same rationale as having a speech class.
Yeah, we do have to have teachers with a master's to be able to teach it in English. And we have 2 teachers right now, and by next year we'll have a 3rd teacher. Any other questions? Action.
Okay,
Mr. President,
yes, we need.
I move to approve the
Oh.
EHS
Well, thank
new
you.
course proposals.
Is there a
as
second?
presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're done with me now.
All right, next item of business is the approval of our October 28th, 2024 regular school board. Been distributed. Anyone have any comments, corrections? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the October 28th, 2024 regular session school board meeting as presented.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call vote.
Mr. Andre,
Abstain.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mayor Gordon,
Yes.
Ms. Costa?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Corpus, and Mr. Jaime Sarabia.
Yes. Right, you're on. General and other fund bills.
The general other fund bills this evening covers checks number 153-533, 153-644, wire transfers 495 to 504, and ACH checks number 282 through 336, the combined amount of $515,939.27. And then there was a memo providing some additional information on several of the bills in the board packet.
I reached out to Bill. Some absurd hour this morning with a couple of questions. Clockwork, $2,400. Tell me.
Clockworks data, Clockworks is a company we use to analyze our energy uses. in
Oh,
our
okay.
School buildings. You
Okay.
may remember Nick.
Right, oh,
Doc
no.
did a presentation on
Right,
that,
right,
so,
no, totally.
yeah, so
Okay.
that's what that is, so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and we expanded it because we started at the high school, we went to the middle school, and then we've done Jackson and district office. And one of the side notes we found is the district office is the most energy efficient of our 4 buildings, if you can believe that. In terms of energy use, so, but we're going through a process, we're working on focused on it.
7 buildings.
Yeah, it's,
New
data there.
I think Richard School was one. they
Yeah,
call
the
it
Richardson School.
That's a specialty school. We have one student in the special ed program that's attending that facility. And that's part of a placement decision for the student based on their IEP.
That's in the way.
It is in Beloit, yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
And what's the frequency of that? Cause I,
It's monthly, so that would have been for the month of September.
okay, cause I remembered seeing that once before, like recently, and that's what particularly made it jump off.
The student who was attending that has moved out of our school district.
So that will no longer be a bill, that will no longer be a cost on our.
Correct, they moved out in October.
Cool. Not cool, but I understand. There was a charge on Jody Esmon's charge card for, I think it was like additional staff survey.
Yeah.
Or new.
It's part of the
Staff?
survey report you're gonna get this evening, so there was additional seats or additional staff we wanted to include in the survey.
Okay, we'll just.
So,
We didn't have enough seats to cover the number of staff in the original contract,
Okay,
so. We had to add more seats.
okay, I mean, it just seemed, there's almost $4,000, so. And then the difference between this WiskNet.
yes,
$17,000 for fiber.
Yeah.
District fiber at a reduced rate, but then what were all the individual charges on June
Right.
and others card?
the WiskNet is our internet provider. So that's actually through the UW kind of system in Madison. So if you look at like our email addresses, they have, after Elkhorn, there's the K-12 WIDUS, that's
Mhm.
specific to, which most school districts are part of. So that's to get us through our internet, access. The fiber connections is the connections between our buildings. So we have, our own fiber that runs between Jackson Elementary, the high school and the middle school, and Jackson Elementary services our server farm for the district. And then we have fiber that also runs from Jackson over to West Side. And then we've extended that to options. So our other sites, which would include Tibbetts, Sophos, CCA, and options before we ran the fiber are part of that Spectrum fiber fee. And what they do is they charge from point to point. So when we bid that out, you'll see kind of that double bill on there, where it looks like it's several of them are, in there twice. All of those costs that you see there are E-ratable, and we're at a 60% E-rate program, so eventually you'll see credits come through. And you won't even see those charges because the E-rate program will pick up most of those costs. So it looks kind of confusing in terms of how it's being billed through there. When we bid out our phone system several years ago, we were able to package in the fiber for running for Tibbetts, and that was our most economical option at the time. Now, we're talking with Mr. Trick, and we're looking at some other providers, including Edge is one of our local, to see what they could possibly provide going forward, so. I don't know if that answers your question. It seems confusing, I know with all those little.
It just seems like there's a lot of duplication, and I guess I don't understand so. Wisknet is our provider,
Our internet provider,
but
correct.
they don't. I guess it's
It's like
fiber.
your access to the internet,
Mhm.
and that's what they
Okay.
provide.
Okay,
So-
and the fiber is the method by which
Correct.
it's delivered.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah, that's the distinction.
right.
More questions?
And I move to approve the general and other fund bills of November 11th, 2024. Check numbers 153,533 to 153,644, wire numbers 495 to 504, and ACH numbers 282 to 336. In the combined amount of $515,939.27 as presented.
A second,
I second.
okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the general and other fund bills of November 11th, 2024. Check numbers 153,533 to 153,644. Wire numbers 495 to 504 and ACH numbers 282 to 336. And a combined amount of $515,000. $515,959.27 as presented. All in favor? Right. And now student representatives report, okay.
Amen.
Okay, on the left, I have 3 pictures from Halloween night. I know we talked about that a few times in here, but that was a super successful night. I just have some pictures of mini golf, pumpkin bucket toss, and then the fortune tellers. The fortune tellers are always a super fun one. A bunch of people just come in and get their fortune told. And then I have a picture of the student section from the soccer game. Soccer made it to state over the weekend. They played. They made it to the championship game and they did super great. Unfortunately, they lost in PK, but it was still a super fun game to watch, and a lot of people came out and supported. And then on the right, I have a picture of rehearsal from the Addams Family, which the play will be on Friday and Saturday this week, so you should all definitely come to that. But yeah, the musical's coming together super nice and it'll be super great.
All right, Isabel, I'm gonna hold you to it. You've got to share what was the competition that you won that was
Oh.
shared today.
Yeah.
So at the Veterans Day Assembly, it was announced like the winners for the VFW competition, and it's like Veterans of Foreign Wars. And basically what it is you write like an essay and there's a prompt every year, and this year the prompt, it was like, is America today our forefathers' vision? And then you write an essay about it, and then you record like a 3 to 5 minute video of you like reading your essay, and then you submit it and then you win. And so I got first place, Lily Hartman got second, and then Ava Ruzinski got third. So we all got like money for it and.
Did you advance to the next level?
Yeah.
The first place?
Yeah, and so then I don't know when I'll find out for that, but yeah, and then mine will get sent to the state, and then if they win that, I can get sent to like win nationally.
What other award did you get?
What was that?
I don't know.
I asked her what other award she just got.
What other
award did you just get?
Oh, the DAR one, the Good Citizen Award.
Yes.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Over at the middle school, I have a picture of when soccer was on their way to state, and then they just stopped by the middle school to say hi, and the middle school kids congratulated everyone. There's a choir concert coming up soon, and then chess and Minecraft are also having some meetings this week, and then intramural soccer is starting for 6th grade girls.
So I have the Veterans Day Assembly on the left there. It looks like it was a success over at West Side. In the middle is just Mrs. Russell's PE class playing some volleyball with cones. I don't think they're tall enough for the nets or something. And then on the right, it's the West Side Quad Squad, and they've been using ratio tables and math to solve multiplication problems, which is pretty cool. Tibbetts also had their Veterans Day Assembly, and it looks like it was a good turnout. There's the Wall of Honor. I think that's really cool to have family members who served or people you know who served up there with pictures. And then 4th and 5th grade Storybook STEM after school program, learning about sketching and drawing, modeling, and printing in 3D with Legos. And then another Veterans Day Assembly over at Jackson, and entries for the first mini masterpiece contest at the Madison Memorial Library.
Over at CCA, you guys already heard about the youth build project, so I won't be redundant. But then, this was their most recent, field trip that they had, and they got to visit, this furniture manufacturing store, and they just got to learn about the manufacturing process and the distribution of it, as well as like the marketing for them. And then over at options, the 2 pictures on the left are from their field trip to their school forest. And they gotta learn about invasive versus non-invasive species and types of plants. And there's also this vine that was growing, and it's local to a lot of regions in the coffee belt that they use as an alternative to like cocoa. And then on the right, that was soccer, and they're just learning like the basics of it in their PE class.
Wednesday, the Young Athletes of Elkhorn is gonna be their second session. So it's ages 2 to 7 again, and there's gonna be 5 stations. They're gonna be there for an hour. And today there was a high school assembly for the Veterans Day at 8 in the morning, and there was one in the middle school too at 2.
Any questions from the students?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Referendum update?
All right, all we had, we put that on the agenda in case there wanted to be any discussion, as Ms. Holly and Mr. Gatton pointed out, the referendum did not pass. It did have a higher percentage vote for it, but it failed by approximately a little over 1,000 votes, or 10%. From an administrative team, we'll put together options for future discussion with the board. I know Mr. Truman's working on the new forecast model that Baird has come out, and we're putting together the staffing models and so forth, and we'll bring forward to the board what are the different options, recommendations for the board to take into consideration moving forward.
On to personnel recommendations.
Attached is the personnel sheet. I want to thank Lydia Perez and Jorge Perez for their work and service as custodians. Kimberly Kellenhofer is a cook at Jackson, Bo Ash is a high school track assistant coach, and Stephanie Perez is a high school track assistant coach. We've got transferred list listed, and as well as appointments. Caitlin Elrod is a middle school counselor, replacing Caitlin Blatter. McCann will be replacing Laura Ellsworth. Is a West Side special ed teaching assistant. Corey Welch is a West Side special ed teaching assistant. Lilia Villa is a high school custodian. Ken Reynolds is coming back out of retirement to help with the middle school wrestling program. He'll be replacing John Watson, and then Mindy Brunswick as a youth cheerleading coach.
Questions?
Silly question, I just never seen this. Community. It says community on there, I didn't notice that earlier.
Very last one.
Yeah.
The exact same thing.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Oh, the youth cheerleading program is a community club program through, it's not a school sponsored, it's a community service program. like the powerlifting. Was originally in the youth football at the lower levels. It goes down to. So basically, it's a community rep type program.
Other questions? We need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the personnel recommendation sheet for November 11, 2024, including new employment contract conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening and.
And a second, please.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Anyone else?
Acceptance of school gifts.
Hey, we have 3 gifts this evening. Tammy Fisher's donated a saxophone to the elementary school band program valued at $550. Deuster Beds Brewing Company's donated $1,133.60 and food valued at $250 for blessings in a backpack. And Thielen Toll Construction's donated $3,000 to Tibbetts Elementary to be used at the discretion of Mr. Frost.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Very awesome.
Somebody would like to make a motion to accept these generous gifts.
I move to accept the generous gifts as presented.
And a second,
Very much thanks.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. We are on to the second reading of revised 231 district curriculum policy.
Can we table this to, I don't want to kick it back to policy, but can we table it till the next board meeting?
Because.
To be honest, I'd like more time to look it over.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
That's fine.
You make the motion.
Make the motion.
yeah, I move to table that to the next board meeting.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, no problem. All right, second reading of the revised professional staff employee handbook.
Any comments or thoughts related to I didn't receive any additional feedback or requests for changes on the employee handbook updates.
And this was just addressing the items that are shown there.
In blue, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Updating that co-curricular chart.
Mhm.
There's no questions.
I move to approve the revised professional staff employee handbook as presented.
Second, please.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to announcements.
All right, we have the referendum canvas tomorrow at 8:00 a.m. The policy committee meeting the next one is scheduled for November 18th at 11:00 a.m. Want to give a big congratulations to the boys soccer team on an incredible season, and they did in the season all the way through the regulation as the only undefeated team in the state. Unfortunately, the penalty kick piece came up, but great season by all the players and the students. They represented the community well. And the school board election, the incumbents are Ed Scarrow and Kevin Gayhart. Always a good idea to publicly declare if you'll run for re-election prior to the end of December there. But the Elkhorn residents who are interested in running for school board should contact Jody Esman in the district office for a packet of materials. And we do have a closed session.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn into closed session.
I make a motion to adjourn into closed session.
And Adam seconded. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, everyone.